We are doing May June 2021 paper 2.2. We'll be looking at the pseudocode walkthrough of it as always. Okay, let's start. So first of all, we have the basic question. They are asking us to tell the appropriate data type. Very simple. First one has string marks, quotation marks. So this should be a string. Then this should be an integer, whole number. This should be a boolean, and then this should be a date. There's a very common mistake that students do. Even if the false is written in quotation mark, students end up writing boolean, which is obviously wrong. This is going to be a string always. Anything that is in quotation mark will always be a string, even if the value inside is a boolean value or an integer value. Then it says modified or index is greater than 100. Okay, so what is stored in modified? It stores false. Okay, so false is fine, or index greater than 100. Index is 100, so 100 is not greater than 100. So the expression comes out to be modified is set to false, and you're saying is 100 greater than 100, that is also false. So false or false will evaluate to false as well. Then we have the length of a string, and then we are supposed to concatenate. So this ampersand operator is used for joining two strings. So this is here for joining two strings, and we have to count the spaces as well, like we discussed. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then we have to join it with the name, and then we have to calculate the length. So the name length. So what is the name? Name is basically name has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we add them together and we get a total of 18. Then int index plus 2.9. So index value is 100. 100 plus 2.9 is 102.9. And when we convert this into integer, it becomes 102. And then mid of name 1, 3, it means start from character 1 and return 3 characters. So if we go to name has Catherine, and we start from index 1 and we get 3 characters. So this will return cat, and it must be in quotation marks, otherwise it won't work. Then we have the index equal to the index plus 1. This is always going to be an assignment statement or counting. If modified is equal to selection, and then end while is just iteration because it's a loop. Okay, skipping this, skipping all this. All right, then we have the ADT question. They're saying what is this type of ADT? So this is a linked list because we have the current values being associated with the next values using some pointers. So linked list gives a technical term for A. A is always going to be pointing to start pointer because linked lists are non-linear. So it will always tell us from where to start. We cannot assume that it will start from 0. Then the next thing we have is they're saying what is labeled B and how do you explain it? So the B is basically the null pointer, and it is usually defined using the phi operator or -1, and the meaning is that it refers to the end of linked list. So at this point onwards, the linked list does not exist. It stops. There are no more nodes in the linked list. Then they're saying you have to just join them in alphabetical order. So start from the starting node, go to the alphabetically small one, which is cat. So C, then alphabetically the next value is D, which is dolphin. And then the next node will be going to the other value. So then we have C, D, E. It should go to E like this. And then from E, we go to F. And at F, this should be -1, or this should be the null pointer. Then the question is saying a teacher uses a paper-based system to store marks for a class test. The teacher requires program to assign grades based on the results. The program will output the grades together with the average mark. Write a detailed description of the algorithm that you will be using. Okay. In this case, whenever the algorithm is being asked, we always have to write structured English. And that means you just have to convert your pseudocode into English, and you have to use all the technical terms. So what we have to do is we have to output the grades average, and we have to write a detailed description algorithm. Okay, so first of all, we'll talk about how they would be a total and how they would be a count of students. So we will say that we'll initialize variables count and total to 0. Then we will loop for all the students from 1 to count, or for the number stored in count variable, maybe let's say 10, so we'll run the loop 10 times. Then we are going to input marks for each student total. Okay, so it is whether to assign grades. Okay, this is going to be a grade assignment, so we will check if the marks fall in an appropriate grade boundary. Then if so, assign the grade. Otherwise we will output an error if marks are out of range. This is a additional step, and then add marks in total variable, and then you can say that once the loop ends, divide total by count to output the average. Simple, like this. Nothing extra needed, just whatever you're writing in pseudocode, you have to write in English. Okay, then they're saying that you have to use a 1D array that you have to declare, which is called rnum, which has 100 elements of type integer. Each element will be a random value in the range of 1 to 200, and then you have to output how many numbers were between 63 and 73. Okay, now in order to generate random numbers, we always need to remember how insert document works, and we have the rand function here, which generates values from 0 to n-1. So if you write 100 here, it will generate values from 0 to 99. So if you want to generate values from 0 to 100, we have to go till 0 to 101, and that is what we're going to do. So first of all, we have to declare the array, which has 1000 integer values. 100, or is it 1000? 100. Okay, so declare rnum as an array with 1 to 100 values of type integer. Then we'll declare we have the 200 values. Okay, and we have to maintain a count, so count, and I will be set to integer. I would be the loop variable, will set the count to 0, and will run a for loop for I 1 to 100. We have to generate random values between 1 to 200. Okay, so the main way to do that is that whatever random number that you have is, let's say R, so we'll write int rand, whatever the difference of the range is, plus 1. So the difference of the ranges 1 to 200 is 199, and 199 plus 1 is 200, and then we'll add 1. This is the main expression, general expression for it. So this will calculate us a value between 1 to 200, and we'll go ahead and we'll store at the current index of the array. And then okay, so we write the number here. Then they're saying that you have to assign each element to the array, and then we have to count how many values were between 66 and 173 inclusive. Okay, we'll check if the value that we generated, if rnum current index I is greater than equal to 66 and rnum index I is less than equal to 173, then we are going to do count is equal to count plus 1, and we do endif, and we do next I, like this, and we'll simply output the value of count, and that is the whole thing. If you don't want to write rnum over and over again, you can just assign it into a variable value, and then you can assign rnum current index I to value, and then you can replace all of these by val, because we don't need to assign anything in the random number array, so we can just use the variable value. This will save time. Okay, next we have, they're saying that the student decides to modify the algorithm so that each element of the array will contain a unique value. Describe how the changes that the student needs to make the algorithm. Okay, so how can the student make sure that the values will be unique? So the idea would be that whatever value you generate, if you have some random values here in the array, 100, 5, and let's say if I'm generating a new value, so I cannot store the value directly first. I have to check if it does not exist in the array. So the next value I'm going to add is 8. So I'll pick 8 and I'll compare it with all the previous values. If it doesn't exist, then I'll add 8 into my array. Let's say if I'm going to input 90 here or 100, so I'll start it. This is not 100, not 100, it is 100. So we will stop, and it is duplicating. So we will regenerate the value. Now next time random number is maybe 9. And since 9 does not exist, so I'll go ahead and I'll place that in the array. You just have tried this in English now. So we'll say that we have to create a conditional loop which runs until no duplicate found. And you can say that initialize duplicate variable to false. So we'll assume that the duplicate is false already, and then we will, what are they saying? Modify the algorithm so that each element of the variable contains a unique value. Yes. So we will create and store a random number in a variable, and then we have to do a linear search of that number against all the previously stored values in the array. And then if duplicate found, then update duplicate variable to true, and this keeps on doing until no duplicate found or all indices seen. And once loop ends, check if duplicate is still equal to false as it was initially, then you will store the value in the correct index of the array. Okay, on to the next part. Now they're saying that we have a pseudocode function. These are for reference only. You have to examine the pseudocode and create the following table. Okay, so we have the number containing an example of initialization statement. Initialization can be anything wherever we have this arrow sign, and this would be in this case line 07, or you can also write line 10, or in fact those are assignment. Okay, initialization is when you are assigning an initial value only once. These are assignment values. We're going to skip that. Okay, then we have the line number containing the start of a repeating block of code. So repeating block of code is any loop, so this would be 9. Then a logical operation, that is and or not, and in our case that would be line 12, where we have the not function. And then we have the mid function here, and the mid function, they're saying give the numbers of parameters to the function mid, and mid is basically like this mid. So it's already given into an insert document, and it has 3 parameters like we saw. Mid has 1 parameter, then 2, and then 3. Then they're saying write the simplified version of line 12. In line 12, they're saying if next star is less than A or next star is greater than Z, not. So basically, you just have to check if is next star less than A or if it is greater than Z. If that is the case, then you are flipping the values. So it shouldn't be the case. Okay. So that means that the value must be in range, and the range is between A and Z. And we will write that if next star greater than equal to A and next star is less than equal to Z, like this, then that's it. So now in this question, they're saying that you have to create a procedure to count the vowels, and you have to, it will be called with a string containing the alphanumeric characters as its parameter. We have to count the number of occurrences for each vowel A, I, or U, and then the count and the number will be outputted. The string may contain upper and lowercase both, so that means we must convert all the text to one case. That would either be, or we'll just assume it will be the lowercase. Then each integer count will be stored in a unique element of a global 1D array, char count of type integer. The array will contain 6 elements. Okay, so we have an array here. This is question number 6. Okay, so we're writing the procedure here. We have a procedure that is called count vowels, and here we have a string that we're going to use. Let's call it source. This will be the string, and then we have to do end procedure. Okay, now we are first of all supposed to maintain an array, so it would be something like this. Char count, this is just for example. We'll have multiple indices, so we'll have the first value would be representing the count for A, then E, then I, then O, and then U, like this. So maybe A count is 2, E is 8, I is 3, O is 1, and U is maybe it has appeared 0 times. This is what we have to do. So we have to count them separately, and this is how the array would look like. Okay, so this is just for example. A, E, I, O, U, index 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'll comment this out. So first of all, we have to set this array to, we have 6 values, so all of the values must be set to 0. Index I is set to 0, and then we do next I. Okay, once this is done, then they're saying that you have to count all the values now one by one, each character. So we have to break down the string into characters. Break down string into characters. By the way, the question said that the array is already global, which means you are not going to declare it. Otherwise, you will lose marks if you actually declare it. But what we'll declare would be I, and let's call it ch. So I would be an integer, and declare ch would be a char, like this. Okay, we have to break down the string into characters. For that, we have to use the mid function. So for I want to length of the source string, next time, every time we have to get the character out, we'll use mid, we'll use source, we'll do I, and we'll do 1. What will this do? So if the string is, let's say, if the string is maybe apple, so we have to break it down character by character. So what I'm doing is get the source string, then start at position I would be initially 1, and get one character, so it will give us A. Then I would become from 1, it will become 2, and then it will get P, so we'll get P here. Then it becomes 3, we get P here again, and it becomes 4, we get L, and we get E. Like this, we'll get one character at a time, and then we have to just compare it. We can use a case of otherwise, or we can use an if condition. Case of otherwise would be better here because there's a lot of replication of code. So case of character, and then we do otherwise. Otherwise, it should be, we don't really need an otherwise in this case though. And then we just have end case because there's no error asked in the question. Okay, if the character is equal to A, then what we're going to do is we're going to go to index 1, and we are just going to do char count index 1 plus 1, just like I mentioned above. So the first index is for A, second is for E, I, and then O, and then U. And we'll just repeat this for all the values like this. A, then we have E, then we have I, then we have O, then we have U, and we will change the indices 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we do the same thing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are multiple ways of doing it, but this is the easiest method that you can use. And then the question says that you also have to output and count the number of occurrences of the other alphabetic characters as a single total. Okay, so in the array, this would be for all the other characters, and others would also have a count. Maybe this becomes 14. This is going to be a very lengthy word, but okay, just for the example. So for this case, we can use the range of all the characters from A to Z. In for loop and in case of otherwise, we can use ranges like this, A to Z. So we'll just use A to Z, or you can in fact use otherwise as well. If you don't feel comfortable using the range function, you can just use otherwise, and you'll say otherwise char count 6 is equal to char count index 6 plus 1, and that is the complete program for this one. And then lastly, they're saying we have to, finally we're going to output the values for I, 1, 2, 6, and then we'll just write output char count index I, and then we do next I, and that is it. We have the variables that we have to initialize I, char count, and yep, no other variable that you have to use in the course. So this is done. We now move on to question number 7. Okay, we are skipping question 7, and then we move on to the last question, that is question number 8. Okay, question number 8 is quite interesting, and it's going to be a bit tricky as well. So let's read the question carefully. Question number 8. Okay, the question number 8 says a program is needed to take a string containing a full name and to produce a new string of initials. Some words in the full name will be ignored. For example, the, and, of, for, into may be ignored. Each letter of the new string must be uppercase. All right. And then the program, so we have IDE, and IDE is converted to IDE with initials, and then ASCII is converted into ASCII. So there's no T. It doesn't say TASCII, okay? Because the question says that the, and, of, for, so the normal words would be skipped. There are 10 elements in the body array called ignore list of type string to store the ignored words, and a string if string to store the full name string. All right, so here we have the 1D array. We don't have to make it. It's called ignore list, and we'll assume that it has words like of, the, it, is, etc. This is just for example. Assume that each alphabetic character is the full name string that may be either upper or lowercase. The full name string contains at least one word. Okay, now you have a lot of modules. Let's see which one we have to write. We have to write ignore word. Okay, in the ignore word, they're saying that this is called with a string parameter. Then searches for the word in the ignore list array. It returns true if the word is found, otherwise returns false. Extremely simple. We just have to do a simple linear search. So we'll write function ignore word, and then the string parameter, let's call it word maybe, and then word is going to be a string, and it will return us a boolean value. And then we have end function. Okay, then it says declared found as boolean, and we have, in fact, we don't even need to do this. This is a function, so we can just use the for loop here like we discussed. We just have to declare the value of I here, that is going to be integer. So for I index 1 2, how many values do we have in this array? Let's see. Ignore list has a total of 10 elements. Okay, it says so here, 10 elements. So I'll write 1 to 10, and then I'm going to get the current word. So if the word matches with the current value, ignore list, the word stored at the current index, if that is the case, then I'm simply going to return true, and I'll do endf, and then I'll do next I, and once the loop has completed, if I've seen all the 10 values and true never returned and the function never terminated, that means I simply have to return false, because then it guarantees that the value does not exist. This is the easiest way to solve such a problem. Whenever you have a function, always utilize the return keyword. Okay, now they're saying write the module get initials, and this would be the last part. Okay, in the get initials, they are saying, so we have all these functions now that we must use because this was not asked in the previous question. Okay, get initials says processes the sequence of the words in the full name one word at a time. Calls get start, get word, ignore word to process each word to form a new string. So as we discussed before, these are all the helper functions, and then they must be used for full credit. Otherwise, you won't get full credit. Okay, now what do we do? Let's see. First of all, we have the get start. Get start will record with an integer as its parameter, representing the number of words in the string, and returns the character starting position of that word in fn string, or returns -1 if that word does not exist. So get start 3 applied to hot and cold returns 9. Okay, what does it tell us? It basically tells us the position. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So get start is telling us that, let's write it here. In fact, let's write here. Get start is returning us the starting position of the third word. Okay, then the next part we have is the get word. Get word is called with the position of the first character of the word, and as its parameter returns the word from the fn string. So if fn string contains hot and cold, and if you write 9, it will return you the whole word starting from this position. So when we have get word, and if I write 9 here, it will get me the whole word starting from position 9. Okay, and then ignore what we've already written, and then initials is the one that we have to write. So we have 3 helper functions here available. Now how do we use them? In the get initials, what we have to do, we just have to get each word one at a time, like this. We have to first check, is this word part of the ignored list? Like D is part of the ignored list, so we are going to skip it. Then we get the next word, and we only get the first alphabet out, which is going to be A, first character out, and then we move on to the next word. And we keep on doing it until the length of the string, or until we actually have found -1. -1 would mean that there is no word. Okay, let's try this. Let's do it in the next block. It's a procedure. Get initials. We have end procedure here. We'll do declaration at the end. All right. And we have to get output a string. So let's call it abbreviation, abbreviated, and abbreviated would be an empty string. Okay. First of all, what we're going to do is we are going to start from the first word. Let's set it to word counter. We are setting it to 1, and then we'll start a loop, repeat until I becomes equal to -1, because the question says in the helper function that eventually -1 would mean that the word does not exist. Similarly, yes, that there is only going to be one -1 in this case. All right, so we're going to repeat, and we're going to get the index out from the, we'll use the get start, and we'll use the word counter. Okay, what does it mean? I'm basically checking if we are representing the number of word here. So if I'm sending, like we discussed, if I'm sending 3, that means return me the position of the third word, right? So this is going to give us the starting position of a word. This is giving the starting position of current word. So current word number is 1, and we'll get the starting position which would be 1. Okay. We have to check that it shouldn't be equal to -1 because the question says so. It shouldn't return -1. That means it's empty. So if index is not equal to -1, then what we're going to do now, once we have the position here, so let's say hot and cold, so word 1, word 2, word 3. Now H starts from index 1. So I know I need to get this word. Now in order to get this word, I need to use the get word function, which to which I will pass the starting position, and it will automatically get me H or T when I pass in 1. When I pass in 1, 2, 3, 4, it will automatically get me and when I pass in 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, if I pass in 8 here, it will automatically 9 here, it will automatically get me 4. So this is what I have to do next. Okay, so if I is not equal to -1, then that means we are going to use the get word. So in order to get the complete word based on the position that we have, so I'll write the, maybe let's call it, we have the word counter. Let's get the word. Let's call it word value. Word value would be that you have to get the word here based on this I that we got. Okay, so when the first word is starting from index 1, so I'll pass I as 1 here, and then it will return me the first word, which is HOTR, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, and then if I pass in 5, it will return me and if I pass in 9, it will return me whole. Okay, this will return me the whole word. Now I have to just check that the word that we got, is it part of the ignored list or not? Now, regardless of the fact that you were not able to write ignored word before, it doesn't matter. You will still get full credit if you use it properly here. So here we are going to pass in the word. We'll say if, or let's get the response, and we'll call the ignore word here, ignore word, and we'll send in the word value here. Okay, then we check if the response is equal to false. We know that ignore word that we wrote will return false if the word is not in the array. If it is false, then that means we do not need to ignore anything here. Okay, since we do not need to ignore anything, we can just pick the word and get the first character out. So let's use the first character, and then the question said that you have to do it all in uppercase. So let's get the first character out. For the first character, we have to just apply the left keyword, word value, comma 1. Again, meaning, so if this is hot and cold, this should be converted to H and C. I think and is not, yes, and would not be considered. So we get the leftmost word leftmost character from each word, H, A, and C. So we get the value here. We have to convert this into uppercase. So character is equal to U case, and we convert the character to uppercase. Okay, and now we have the characters. We just have to join them in the same string. So I'll write abbreviated is equal to abbreviated ampersand character, and then we do endif, and then that is it. And then we finally output the string, which will be abbreviated. And then we do end procedure, and that's it.
Excuse me, जब हम लिखते हैं दरमियान